Kaler, the veteran dragon, had seen more battles than most could count. His scales were scarred and faded in places, each mark telling a story of survival. For centuries he had been part of countless wars across the galaxy, fighting enemies that threatened entire worlds. Now, older and slower than he once was, he spent his days patrolling quiet planets, mostly observing and teaching younger dragons. Kaler prided himself on knowing every detail of his body. That was why the small, strange spot that appeared on his scales that morning caught him off guard. It was tiny, almost invisible if one wasn't looking closely. At first, Kaler thought it was dirt, or perhaps just a scratch from a bramble during his morning flight. He peered at it through the reflective surface of his golden eye, turning his massive head to inspect it from different angles. The spot didn't move, didn't burn, and didn't hurt. Kaler grunted and shook his head. Just a spot, he muttered to himself. Nothing worth worrying about. But Kaler was a dragon who knew when to trust instincts. There was something about the spot that didn't feel right. He flexed his wings and let out a low rumble, trying to convince himself that it was harmless. Yet, in the back of his mind, a faint unease lingered. He could not shake the feeling that something unusual had begun, something small but dangerous. Meanwhile, in the medical station tucked inside a quiet asteroid field, Mira, a young human nurse, was preparing her instruments. She had been assigned to care for Kaler during his stay, a task she approached with both excitement and anxiety. Mira had heard countless stories of dragons, but Kaler was different. His presence was commanding, almost overwhelming, yet she felt a strange comfort around him. Her heart raced as she thought about inspecting the legendary dragon's health. When Kaler landed in the medical bay, the room trembled slightly under his weight. Mira stepped forward, trying to hide her nervousness. She had studied dragon anatomy extensively, but seeing the massive creature up close was another experience entirely. "Good morning, Kaler," she said, her voice steady though her hands shook. "I noticed a small mark on your scales. May I take a look?" Kaler shifted uncomfortably, his tail brushing against a wall. "A mark?" he said, his deep voice vibrating the room. "It is nothing. Just a spot. I do not need examination for a trivial blemish." Mira nodded, not wanting to push him too hard. She had learned that dragons, especially veterans like Kaler, were proud and stubborn. "I understand," she said softly. "But even the smallest concern can become serious if ignored. I promise it won't take long." Kaler's golden eyes narrowed. He did not like the idea of being treated like a fragile creature. Yet something in Mira's calm determination made him hesitate. Slowly, he lowered his head to the medical table, careful not to crush it under his weight. Mira's hands hovered over the spot, scanning it with her devices. The soft hum of the machines filled the quiet room, mingling with the occasional creak of Kaler's wings as he shifted to get comfortable. The readings flickered across her screen. At first, everything seemed normal. No infection, no cracks in the scales, no unusual energy readings. Mira frowned. But then, as she focused on the tiny mark, her device beeped, a subtle but urgent warning. The spot was not what it seemed. It was not a scratch or a simple blemish. It contained traces of an unknown energy pattern, one that did not belong to dragons or any other species she had ever studied. "Kaler," Mira said, trying to keep her voice calm, "this spot, it isn't normal. It may look small, but it could be dangerous." Kaler's eyes narrowed, and his massive chest rose with a deep, measured breath. "Dangerous? For me?" His voice carried both skepticism and a hint of curiosity. "I have faced firestorms, Starfleet armies, and creatures that could swallow planets whole. How could a mere spot threaten me?" Mira hesitated. She had to choose her words carefully. "It is not about strength, Kaler. Some dangers cannot be fought with fire or claws. This could spread, and it could affect others too." Kaler's tail twitched nervously. For a creature who had survived countless wars, the idea of an invisible threat was unfamiliar and unsettling. He had always relied on his instincts, on the strength of his scales and his fire. But something in Mira's eyes told him she was serious. She was small, human, yet she radiated confidence and intelligence. After a long pause, Kaler nodded slowly. "Very well," he said. "Examine it fully. But know this, human, if it is a trap, I will not forget it." Mira smiled faintly. "I understand," she said. She moved closer, her devices ready, and began her careful inspection. As she worked, Kaler watched her closely, noting the precision in her movements and the focus in her eyes. For the first time, he realized that humans, despite their small size, could possess skills and courage that rivaled dragons. The examination revealed something unexpected. The spot was a dormant alien pathogen, ancient and unfamiliar. It pulsed faintly with an energy that suggested intelligence, as if it were aware of its presence and purpose. Myra's heart raced as she realized the implications. If left unchecked, this pathogen could not only harm Kaler but potentially spread across entire colonies, affecting countless species. Kaler's massive head lowered, and he stared at the mark with a mixture of disbelief and concern. "I have fought the greatest enemies of the galaxy," he said quietly, "but never one I cannot see or hear. This is unlike anything I have known." Mira nodded, trying to steady her own racing thoughts. "That is why we must act carefully. We need to understand it before it grows stronger. And Kaler? I need your trust." Kaler's golden eyes met hers, and in that moment, a silent understanding passed between them. He was a warrior, but even warriors could not fight every battle alone. And Mira, small and human though she was, might just be the key to surviving this new invisible threat. As the two of them studied the mysterious spot, a low hum began to echo through the medical bay, almost as if the mark itself were awakening. Kaler flexed his claws instinctively, preparing for what might come, while Myra's hands hovered above the scanners, ready to uncover the shocking truth. Neither of them knew yet just how dangerous this small spot could be, or how it would change the bond between a dragon and a human forever. The first spark of unease had begun, and neither Kaler nor Mira could ignore it. The galaxy, it seemed, was about to face a new kind of threat, one that required more than fire and strength to defeat. And for the veteran dragon and the brave human nurse, this was only the beginning. Mira worked through the night, her scanners humming softly as she studied the tiny spot on Kaler's scales. The more she observed, the more she realized it was not ordinary. It pulsed faintly as if alive, sending out waves of energy that seemed intelligent. Myra's heart pounded. She had studied alien pathogens before, but nothing had prepared her for this. This was ancient, dangerous, and cunning. Kaler watched her work silently, his golden eyes reflecting the soft light of the scanners. He had fought countless enemies, but he had never faced something invisible, something that could grow and spread without leaving a trace. His claws flexed nervously. "Tell me, human," he rumbled, "what is this? A weapon? A disease? Or some trick of the stars?" Mira shook her head. "I don't know yet. It's not like anything recorded in the galaxy's medical archives. It seems dormant. But it is alive, Kaler. I think it can spread to others if we aren't careful." Kaler's massive head tilted, and he lowered it close to her devices. "Spread? To others? How?" "It's hard to explain," Mira said. "It's like a seed that waits. Once it senses a host, it can grow and infect. Not just dragons either. Humans, other species, anyone could be at risk." Kaler's tail twitched, a sign of his growing unease. He had always believed that strength, size, and fire could protect him from anything. But now, a small invisible mark, barely larger than a freckle, threatened more than just him. He realized for the first time in centuries that raw power alone was not enough. Mira continued scanning. Her devices picked up subtle fluctuations in the mark, tiny pulses of energy that seemed to respond to their presence. She frowned. "It's almost like it's aware of us. Like it knows we are studying it." Kaler let out a low growl, a sound that carried both frustration and fear. "A creature that knows it is being watched? This is not a foe I can fight with claws or fire." Mira looked up at him, her eyes calm but serious. "That's why we need to be smart. We need to understand it, Kaler. Strength alone won't save us." The dragon's golden eyes softened slightly. He had always respected intelligence, but he had rarely trusted it over instinct. Mira, small and human, was proving that courage and knowledge could be as powerful as his claws. Mira leaned closer to the scanners, analyzing the energy readings. She realized that the pathogen was ancient, older than most civilizations, and highly adaptable. It could survive in extreme conditions and had likely traveled across galaxies long before anyone had recorded it. The thought made her shiver. Kaler shifted his massive body, careful not to disturb the delicate equipment. "So it has survived countless years, hidden, awaiting. Why does it appear now? Why me?" Mira shook her head slowly. "Sometimes danger chooses its moment. Maybe it sensed your strength, Kaler. Maybe it thought you could carry it without notice. Or maybe it just waited for the right host." The dragon's eyes narrowed. "A host? Me? I'm not weak, human. I have survived wars that would crush entire fleets. Why would a tiny spot be a threat?" Mira took a deep breath. "Because this is not a normal enemy. It is clever. It doesn't fight like others. It hides, it adapts, and it can spread. Even the strongest dragon could unknowingly carry it to others, to planets, to civilizations. If we ignore it, it could become catastrophic. Kaler fell silent, contemplating her words. His mind raced through centuries of battles and victories, all the enemies he had faced. Nothing had prepared him for something he couldn't see or touch. He realized that wisdom and patience, qualities often underestimated, were now more important than raw power. Mira continued her study, carefully recording every reading and energy fluctuation. She noticed a pattern forming in the spot's pulse, tiny waves that seemed almost like a code. Her eyes widened. Kaler, this is more than a pathogen. It might be intelligent. It's responding to us, learning, maybe even trying to communicate. The dragon's scales shimmered slightly as he moved, a gesture of curiosity mixed with unease. Intelligent? Something that lives, yet cannot be fought, and thinks. His deep voice carried a mixture of fear and fascination. This is unlike any enemy I have faced. Mira nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. We need to study it carefully. If it is intelligent, we might be able to stop it before it spreads. But we have to act fast. Every moment counts. Kaler exhaled a long, smoky breath, the tip of his tail brushing against the floor. You speak of time as if it favors us. Yet I have learned that patience is scarce in war, and more dangerous enemies hide in patience. Mira smiled faintly. Then let's use the time we have wisely. I will not let it harm you, Kaler, and together maybe we can prevent it from harming others. The dragon's eyes softened, and he lowered his massive head closer to her. Very well, human. We will face this, together. But know this, I have survived centuries. I will not be an easy victim. If it wishes to challenge me, it will regret the day it chose to awaken. Mira returned his gaze, her heart steady despite the fear creeping in. I don't plan to let it challenge you. We will understand it, Kaler, and we will stop it. For the first time since the spot appeared, Kaler felt a flicker of trust. Not just in Mira's skill but in her courage. She was small, human, but she carried a strength that could rival any dragon. He realized that victory might not come from fire and claws alone, but from a combination of bravery, intelligence, and unity. As the night deepened, Mira continued her careful study and Kaler watched, both wary and intrigued. The small spot pulsed faintly under her gaze, its energy almost alive. The veteran dragon understood that this was not just a mark on his scales, it was a new kind of battle, one that required a new kind of courage. Neither of them knew yet just how dangerous the tiny mark could be, or how it would challenge everything they believed about strength, intelligence, and trust. But one thing was certain, Kaler and Mira were no longer facing it alone. Together, they had begun a journey that would test their limits and change their understanding of the galaxy forever. The quiet hum of the scanners filled the room, the tiny pulses of the mark glowing faintly like a heartbeat. And in the silence, both dragon and human knew that discovery was only the beginning. Kaler's wings stretched wide as he prepared for the journey ahead. The small spot on his scales had grown restless, pulsing with a faint, unpredictable energy. Mira had spent days analyzing it, and her discoveries left no doubt. The mark was a dangerous, intelligent pathogen, and it needed to be contained before it could spread to other dragons or human colonies. The solution, Mira explained, required a rare element found only on the distant planet of Zithra, a planet known for violent storms, jagged cliffs, and unpredictable wildlife. Kaler lowered his massive head to Mira. You expect us to fly across half the galaxy for a mineral? He rumbled. His voice carried a mix of irritation and concern. I have survived ambushes, wars, and countless enemies, yet you ask me to carry a human across a storm-ravaged planet? Mira smiled faintly, though her eyes betrayed the tension she felt. It's dangerous, yes, but it's the only way. If we don't get the element, the pathogen will awaken fully. Could spread to entire colonies. We can't ignore this, Kaler. The dragon exhaled slowly, smoke curling from his nostrils. He had faced impossible odds before, but this was different. He could not simply burn or claw his way through the threat. This enemy hid in plain sight, waiting, learning, adapting. After a long pause, Kaler nodded. Very well, human. I will take you there. But know this, the planet is unforgiving and I will not carry you lightly. Mira secured her gear as Kaler lifted into the sky. The air trembled under the force of his wings. Stars streaked past them as they entered faster than light travel, and Mira felt a mix of awe and fear. She had traveled before but never on the back of a living legend. Kaler was enormous, powerful, and graceful despite his bulk. Yet the more time she spent near him, the more she realized that even the mightiest dragon had limits. Hours into their journey, Mira reviewed her notes and scans of the mark. Kaler, she said, the pathogen seems to react to certain energy fields. If we are not careful, it could sense the turbulence of Zithra's storms and grow stronger. The dragon growled softly, sensing her concern. Then we must be precise. I will navigate the storms carefully, but this planet does not forgive mistakes. When they entered Zithra's atmosphere, the real danger began. Winds twisted violently, bending even Kaler's powerful wings. Lightning flashed across jagged cliffs and strange flying creatures darted through the storm, their sharp claws glinting in the stormlight. Mira clung to his scales, her heart racing, scanning the terrain for the mineral they needed. Kaler roared, diving through narrow gaps between cliffs, dodging strikes from the storm and aggressive wildlife. Mira marveled at his skill. I have never seen flying like this, she shouted over the roar of the wind. You are incredible. Kaler's golden eyes flickered with determination. I have survived centuries, human. I do not fall easily. They finally reached the cliffs where the rare element, a glowing crystal known as lithium, was found. The cliffs were steep and slick with rain, and strange creatures with glowing eyes scuttled along the rocks. Mira secured a harness and prepared to descend with Kaler's guidance. Kaler landed heavily, shaking the ground. Be cautious, he warned. The creatures are territorial and the storms are relentless. One mistake and the cliff becomes your grave. Mira nodded, her small body trembling slightly. Yet she drew courage from Kaler's presence. I'll be careful, she said, gripping her harness tightly. As she descended, the creatures began to sense their intrusion. They were swift, with sharp teeth and glowing limbs, attacking in waves. Kaler's roar shook the air, and he unleashed bursts of fire that illuminated the stormy cliffs. Mira ducked and darted, gathering lithium crystals while avoiding attacks. The pathogen on Kaler's scales pulsed as if reacting to the danger, making Mira even more anxious. Almost there, she muttered, grabbing the last crystal. A creature lunged at her, and Kaler's claw sliced through the storm just in time to knock it away. Mira clambered back onto his back, holding the precious crystals tightly. Kaler's wings beat against the storm, carrying them away from the cliffside. Once they reached a calmer plateau, Mira examined the crystals. We have it, she said, relief washing over her. This is enough to neutralize the pathogen. Kaler's body relaxed slightly, though his eyes remained alert. Good. But we are not safe yet. The storm is unpredictable and the pathogen is still on me. We must leave before it senses our energy and grows stronger. They took off again, navigating through lightning and howling winds. Mira clung tightly, her mind focused on stabilizing the crystals and keeping Kaler steady. Despite the chaos around them, a sense of trust had formed. Kaler, a legendary dragon who had survived countless battles, and Mira, a human whose courage matched her intelligence, had become a team. Hours later, they finally reached a quiet area to rest. Kaler landed with a soft tremor, and Mira carefully checked him. The spot on his scales pulsed faintly but seemed calmer after acquiring the lithium. Mira smiled. We did it, Kaler. We have what we need. Kaler exhaled a long breath, smoke curling from his nostrils. Yes, but this is only the beginning. The pathogen is clever. It may have sensed our interference. I fear it will not give up easily. Mira nodded. Then we prepare. We study it further, and when the time comes, we neutralize it completely. Together. Kaler's golden eyes softened as he regarded her. Together, human. I have faced countless battles alone, but perhaps some fights are meant to be shared. As the storm finally settled, the two unlikely allies rested, their bond strengthened by the peril they had faced. The mission was dangerous, but it had shown them both something important. Courage, intelligence, and trust could be more powerful than fire or strength alone. The small mark on Kaler's scales pulsed faintly under the fading stormlight, a reminder that danger still lurked. But for now, the veteran dragon and the brave human nurse had survived the first great trial, and together they were ready for whatever came next. The wind howled through the narrow canyons of Zithra as Kaler and Mira prepared to confront the pathogen. The lithium crystals glowed faintly in Mira's hands, their energy resonating with the pulsing mark on Kaler's scales. The small spot had grown restless during the journey, and now, hovering between faint pulses and sharp flashes, it seemed almost alive. Mira could feel the tension in the air. This was no longer just a mark, it was a hidden enemy, intelligent and aware. Kaler's massive form shifted as he crouched, muscles tense beneath his scales. I feel it, he rumbled, his golden eyes scanning the jagged cliffs. It senses us. It is aware we have the crystals. It is testing our strength before it strikes. Mira nodded, trying to calm her racing thoughts. We must be precise, Kaler. It reacts to energy, to movement, and possibly to fear. If we let it control the battle, it could escape or grow stronger. Kaler flexed his claws, grinding them against the rocky ground. Then we control it. Together. His voice was deep and steady, a source of reassurance for Mira. She adjusted the crystals in her pack, connecting them to a small device she had engineered to channel the Letherium energy. We need to synchronize, she said. Your fire can weaken it, but the crystals will neutralize it completely. One without the other won't be enough. Kaler exhaled slowly, smoke curling from his nostrils. Very well. Show me the plan, human. Mira pointed to the pulsating spot. It reacts in waves. Each pulse is a signal. When it pulses brighter, that's when it's most vulnerable. We attack during that moment. Your fire will disrupt its energy, and I'll use the crystals to trap it in a containment field. The first pulse came unexpectedly. The mark flared faintly, and a ripple of energy swept across Kaler's scales. He growled, twisting his massive body to absorb the shock, and unleashed a controlled blast of fire into the air. Sparks of alien energy sizzled where his flames struck, meeting the mark's pulse head-on. Mira activated the crystals, sending a wave of stabilizing energy toward the pathogen. For a moment nothing happened. Then the mark shivered, pulsing violently as if resisting both fire and Letherium. Myra's hands shook slightly, but she focused, adjusting the device to amplify the crystal's resonance. Kaler roared, his fire synchronized with her energy waves, and together they created a pulse that engulfed the pathogen. The mark writhed, sending sharp waves of energy outward. Rocks shook and the ground beneath them trembled. Strange, shadowy forms flickered in the corner of Myra's vision, hints of the pathogen trying to manifest in a physical form. It was clever, fast, and aware. Kaler flexed his wings and claws, deflecting the energy pulses with precise movements, while Mira recalibrated the crystals, maintaining a steady containment field. This is more than I expected, Mira whispered, her eyes wide. It's adapting, learning, reacting to us. Kaler's deep voice rumbled, steady and calm. Then we adapt as well. Trust your skills, human. Trust me. The pathogen's pulses became erratic, testing their coordination. Mira adjusted the crystals, following Kaler's fire bursts with perfect timing. They moved as one, the dragon's strength and the human's intelligence combining in a rhythm that the pathogen could not predict. The air around them shimmered with energy as waves of fire and crystal light collided with the alien force. At one point, the pathogen launched a sudden pulse, a jagged wave of energy aimed directly at Kaler's chest. The veteran dragon twisted mid-air, taking only a fraction of the hit, while Mira redirected the crystal energy to absorb the remainder. Hold steady, she shouted. Kaler roared in response, letting his fire burn hotter, synchronized with her crystal pulse, and for the first time the pathogen's energy flickered, weakened. Myra's confidence grew. Now, Kaler. One more synchronized strike and we trap it. The dragon inhaled deeply, gathering a massive breath of fire. Mira aligned the crystals, focusing all energy into a single beam. As Kaler released the fire, a brilliant column of light shot from Myra's crystals, colliding with the mark's pulse. The pathogen shrieked, a soundless, vibrating energy that echoed through the canyons. It pulsed violently, then slowed, flickering, and finally collapsed into a small, contained orb of faint glowing energy. Kaler landed heavily, his chest heaving, but his eyes gleamed with triumph. Mira approached cautiously, holding her device steady. It's contained, she said, relief washing over her. We did it. The veteran dragon lowered his head, brushing gently against Mira in an unusual gesture of respect. Yes, human. Together we have faced an enemy unlike any I have known. You were brave and clever. Without your mind guiding this battle, it could have overcome me. Mira smiled, exhausted but elated. And without your strength, none of this would have worked. You carried us through the storm, Kaler. We are a team. The storm around them began to calm, and the strange creatures that had watched from the cliffs retreated. The pathogen was no longer a threat, neutralized by the combined effort of dragon power and human intelligence. Kaler flexed his wings, golden eyes scanning the quieted canyons, ensuring there were no remaining pulses of danger. For the first time in days, Mira allowed herself to relax. She knelt beside Kaler's claw, examining the mark on his scales. It no longer pulsed aggressively. The small spot, once an unknown threat, had been subdued. But she knew that vigilance was still necessary. The universe had more mysteries, more hidden dangers, and Kaler had learned that strength alone was not always enough. Kaler lowered his massive head, the weight of the battle settling on his shoulders. "You have shown me something human," he said quietly. "Even a dragon with centuries of battles cannot face every enemy alone. Intelligence and courage are as mighty as fire and claw." Mira reached out, gently touching the edge of his scales where the mark had been. "And you have shown me, Kaler, that courage is not only in fire and strength. It's in facing the unknown and trusting that someone else can stand beside you." The veteran dragon's eyes softened. "Then we have both learned. Together we are stronger than we are apart." As they rested, the containment orb glowed faintly, a reminder that the hidden enemy was no longer free, and that their teamwork had prevented a disaster that could have spread across galaxies. The first great trial was over, but the bond between the veteran dragon and the human nurse had been forged in fire, trust, and courage. The small spot, now neutralized, seemed almost peaceful, pulsing faintly in time with Kaler's breathing. Mira smiled, knowing that this victory was only possible because two very different beings had learned to fight together. The galaxy was safe at least for now, and their journey was far from over. The storm had finally passed over Zithara, leaving a quiet calm across the jagged cliffs. Kaler stretched his massive wings, letting the cool wind wash over him. The small spot on his scales no longer pulsed aggressively. It had been contained, neutralized by the Letherium crystals and Myra's quick thinking. For the first time in days, both dragon and human could breathe without the constant tension of imminent danger. Mira carefully examined the crystals, ensuring that their energy field was stable. She looked up at Kaler, whose golden eyes scanned the horizon, still alert despite the calm. "We did it," she said softly. "The pathogen won't harm anyone now." Kaler lowered his head, letting Mira approach. "Yes," he rumbled. "But this experience, it has taught me more than any battle I have fought in centuries. Strength alone is not enough. Intelligence, courage, and trust, these are as vital as claws and fire." Mira smiled, relieved that the veteran dragon recognized what she had always believed. "And you've shown me, Kaler, that even the strongest beings sometimes need help. Bravery isn't just about fighting, it's about knowing when to trust others." The two of them shared a quiet moment, the bond forged in the heat of danger growing stronger. Kaler had always been a solitary warrior, relying on his own instincts and strength. But now he had seen firsthand that alliances, even with humans, could save lives. As they prepared to return to the medical station, Kaler folded his wings and lowered himself onto the rocky plateau. "You have earned my respect, Mira. Many humans are clever, but few can face danger with such determination and calm. You were steady even when the pathogen fought back." Mira blushed slightly, humbled by his praise. "I couldn't have done it without you, Kaler. Your strength kept us alive, and your experience guided us through the storms. We balanced each other perfectly." Kaler's tail swept the ground thoughtfully. "It is strange. I have fought countless battles, seen entire fleets fall, and yet this small hidden enemy tested me in ways no army ever could. I realize now that survival is not only about strength. It is about understanding, adaptation, and partnership." Mira nodded, tucking the Letherium crystals into a secure container. "That's true for humans too. We are small, but we can achieve great things when we use our minds and work together. This mission proves that courage and intelligence are sometimes more powerful than raw strength." Kaler let out a low, thoughtful rumble. "Perhaps the galaxy would benefit if dragons and humans worked together more often. Our combined skills could prevent disasters, even those we cannot see coming." Myra's eyes widened with excitement. "That's exactly what I've hoped for. Maybe this is the start of a new understanding between our species. If we can trust each other in the face of danger, think of what we could achieve together." The dragon tilted his head, considering her words. "Trust is earned, human. And today you have earned mine. Not just your skill but your courage and your heart. It is rare to see such qualities in any being, regardless of size or species." Mira stepped closer, her hands brushing gently against his scales. "And you've earned mine too, Kaler. You've shown me that even a creature of legend can learn and grow, that strength without wisdom can falter. Today we both grew stronger, not just in skill but in understanding." Kaler's golden eyes gleamed with a rare softness. "Perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. That strength alone is not enough, and that survival often depends on alliances we do not expect." As they began their journey back to the medical station, Kaler lifted into the sky with Mira on his back. The calm winds carried them gently over Zithara's cliffs, and the stars sparkled above like distant guides. The galaxy felt larger, yet safer, as if their victory had created a ripple of hope across the stars. During the flight, Mira studied the mark one last time. It pulsed faintly, a gentle glow, no longer threatening but still a reminder of the danger they had faced. "It's amazing," she murmured. "Something so small could have caused so much harm, yet we overcame it. Together." Kaler exhaled smoke, letting it drift into the night air. "Yes, together. That is the truth I will remember. And perhaps it is a lesson I will carry back to the young dragons I guide. Strength is vital, but understanding and trust, they are equally powerful." Mira nodded, her heart swelling with hope. "And maybe other humans and dragons will learn the same. If our species can work together, who knows what we could accomplish." The veteran dragon let out a low, approving rumble. "The galaxy has changed for us today, human. Not because of fire or claw, but because of courage, intelligence, and partnership. We have faced the unknown and survived. That is a victory in itself." As they approached the medical station, Kaler and Mira could see other dragons observing them from afar, their wings glinting in the starlight. News of their triumph would spread quickly. It would be remembered not as a battle of fire, but as a story of collaboration, intelligence, and trust. Kaler landed gently, his massive claws shaking the ground. Mira dismounted carefully, her eyes meeting his. "We did it," she said softly. "Yes," Kaler replied, his voice low but full of respect. "And we have learned something neither of us will forget. Strength without understanding is limited. Courage without partnership is incomplete. Today we proved that together we can face even the hidden enemies of the galaxy." Mira smiled, placing her hand on his snout. "And that makes us stronger than ever." For the first time in weeks, the veteran dragon allowed himself to relax fully. The threat had been neutralized, and the bond between human and dragon had been forged through courage, intelligence, and trust. They had faced an enemy invisible to most, and they had won, not through fire alone but through unity. The small mark pulsed faintly one last time, now harmless, a reminder of the danger they had overcome. Kaler looked down at Mira, and for the first time in centuries he felt hope for the future. Perhaps dragons and humans, so different yet capable of extraordinary courage, could shape the galaxy together. The stars twinkled above, silent witnesses to their triumph. The veteran dragon and the brave human nurse had faced the unknown and emerged victorious. And in their victory they discovered a new understanding, one that would shape not only their lives but the future of the galaxy. Together they had survived, learned, and grown. And that was a triumph greater than any battle Kaler had ever fought.